Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's Operational Services Committee meeting. It is August 20th. I'm your chair, Councillor Chris Thiessen, joined today in committee with Councillor Blackmore, Councillor Berg, and Mayor Jackie Clayton. I'll call this meeting to order, and I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Blackmore.
I'd make that motion.
That motion is made, and we'll call to question. That motion carries. Moving on into reports, I will turn it over to our Chief of Operational Services, Chief Glavin, for the service area update.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. We'll start with engineering services. No new tenders this week, but all capital construction projects are still on track and should all be done by the end of the season, barring no unforeseen circumstances. In transit, we continue to see ridership increase in maintenance over the summer, with 47% increase in overall ridership between last July and this July, with the major portion of that being a youth ridership increase of 169%.
Sweet.
In environment and parks, an RFQ is posted to retain a contractor for fire smart vegetation management. This field work will take place this fall in the South Bear Creek area. As well, there is a RFQ posted for the fall tree installations at various locations. In transportation, there's a current RFQ out for contracted residential snow plowing and snow hauling services, and evaluations of those submissions should take place at the end of this month. With that, I'll take any questions.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Chief Glavin. I do have Councillor Berg and Mayor Clayton in the queue. I'll go to Councillor Berg first, and then Mayor Clayton, then Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So the question that I'm getting almost on a daily basis, what are the timelines for completion on the 116th construction behind Ernie's? I will comment that traffic is flowing nicely, but people are just wondering.
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. I believe it should be done in September. I think they have till October to do it, but I think it's been going reasonably well, but I can let's try and get a little firmer date than that.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Berg. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. My question's in regards to street sweeping. I know traditionally we do a couple passes on our arterials and maybe secondaries and one pass on residential, and if I'm wrong, fine. Just can you give me an update on how that went for this season and if we're done?
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Mayor Clayton. Yeah, that's roughly what it looks like. Usually about 3 passes on the arterials, and then into the industrial areas and commercial areas, 1 to 2, and then residential 1 typically. We do run it all year round. I think they are moving ahead of schedule, so we'll likely see an additional pass in some, like on arterials for sure. And I can get more detailed information if you're interested, but that's rough.
You just send an email to council. Sure. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief Glavin. Thanks, Mayor Clayton. Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. Chief Glavin, I've had this question from a number of people this year who are not very happy with the city. There's only 5 east-west places to go across the city, and this year every single one of them has been under construction. Are we going to continue doing that next year and the year after, or have we reached the point where there will be no construction on those crossroads? It seems like we are punishing our citizens who need to go east and west across the city.
Chief Glavin.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So when we're designing the construction projects for any given year, we do try to not disrupt arterial roads going in the same direction at the same time if possible. So typically we don't have it. This year we had one unexpected closure on 132nd that with the CN rail issue, when there was a water line that was hit that eroded that road, that did cause issue where we wouldn't have expected it to this year. So the short answer is typically we try to avoid it. It's not always avoidable to not have 2 at the same time. That's about as simple. And unfortunately, we are in this situation where we don't have lots of choice on arterial roads going east-west or north-south, just with the design of the city.
So 108th Avenue, that's an Aquaterra construction. And traffic's still moving through there, but do we coordinate with Aquaterra so we know if they're going to do 108th, maybe we don't want to do 100th or 68th?
Chief Clavin?
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. Yes, we do meet with Aquaterra on a monthly basis to coordinate different projects, and we do coordinate overall capital projects. I'll have to look at what 108th was. I don't recall that being, I'm not sure that was a planned project for this year. That may have been an emergent one.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Councillor Blackmore. I got Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. Councillor Blackmore's comments spurred something in my memory. Can you tell me how we're doing in regards to remediation of land? I noticed, for example, Aquaterra was doing some work at the Staples Corner. I see that it's been graded, but are they seeding it? Are they leaving it for weeds to grow? What's the plan there? And also any of the other projects, it appears that our contractors, their lowest priority is remediating the land back to the state it was. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Chief Clavin?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Thiessen. Yes, it's also been noticeable to administration and our project managers. We met with our prime contractor on pretty much all the projects that you could think of right now last week to express that we need them to live up to the contract that was signed. And we've begun managing that more aggressively to get that work done.
Thank you.
All right, and I'll look around for any other questions, as I have none. Seeing none. All right, now you're off the hook, Chief Clavin, but we still got to put you to work because we have item 4.2, policy 633 or 623, securities for construction on public lands and private lands.
Thank you, Chair Thiessen. So administration reviewed policy 612, our land development municipal improvements policy. It was determined this policy was no longer meeting its intended purpose. Administration worked with industry to prepare a new policy for your consideration today, which is policy 623. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Coulter.
Welcome.
Thank you, through the chair. Chief Clavin really covered the majority of what I was going to say. The policy was created as a result of a review of the existing land development municipal improvements policy. It was identified much of the information contained in this policy was found in other governing city documents like the MDP and outline plans. We also identified a gap in procedural and policy process around securities taken through other city processes outside of development agreements. This new policy will create a clear framework for the determination and management of securities taken by the city through development agreements, engineering permits, and land use, or development agreements, development permits, and engineering permits. This draft policy and procedure was circulated formally to internal and external stakeholders. No concerns were identified through this review. This policy has also received a thorough internal and legal review. Administration is recommending that committee recommend that council adopt policy 623, securities for construction on public lands and private lands, and rescind the existing policy 612, land development municipal improvements policy.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Ms. Coulter. It looks like we got some hands going up, so we'll put you in the line of fire here. I got Councillor Blackmore, then Councillor Berg.
Thank you, Councillor Thiessen. There is a line in your report that I don't really understand. I hope you can explain to me. You say many municipalities in Alberta have moved away from land development policies and administration is recommending that Grande Prairie utilize this report. Do we not need to have land development policies? Not really understanding that direction.
Ms. Coulter.
Through the chair, the land development policy identified kind of your common practice ideas in land development. So contiguous development, bringing utilities to the edge of property, how the neighborhoods are kind of planned, which is all covered in other documents. The land development policy also spoke to the security requirements for servicing agreements. So rather than duplicating planning policy and information in this policy, we elected to keep the planning side of it with the planning policies and then keep the securities in its own separate policy, which would be the security policy. This has been common practice among municipalities across Alberta.
So I would guess that practice would make changing policies in the future a little more nimble because you're not changing such a massive document.
Ms. Coulter.
Through the chair? Yes. When we're looking at having to change security processes, it will make it simpler because we're not going to be looking at something like updating the MDP.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Councillor Blackmore. Thanks, Ms. Coulter. I have Councillor Burke.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Thiessen. I have two different questions on two different subjects, so I'll opt out on one if that's fine. I also need a point of clarification. In 623, it mentions that I think we take 100% bond, and in 623.1, it just has set dollar amounts of $500, $1,000. Can you explain the difference or help frame it for me if I'm misreading it?
Ms. Coulter?
Through the chair? Yes. So the procedure identifies two distinct security processes. The development agreement is where you'll see that 100% for major items. And then with the development bond, it's 100% for all items. The table that you're referencing with the 5,000, 1,000, 250, that's speaking specifically to engineering permits. So engineering permits are utilized for like the smaller private projects that happen around the city, like somebody pouring a driveway or just doing a single storm connection. So the procedures are for two separate processes.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. And my other question?
Yeah, go right to town.
Okay, thank you. With these bonds, and this circles back to the previous questions, I guess where we're seeing the land not remediated a year after construction, again mentioning the lack of grass around that Staples corner, are the bonds not high enough to motivate the people to finish these, or at what point do they see their money go back?
Ms. Coulter?
Through the chair. So projects like the Staples project that you're thinking of are handled through our capital contracts. So they're using either holdbacks or they're using different performance and labor material bonds. Those are generally motivation for contractors to complete the work. It is an extensive process to pull the bonds. So we generally really try to work with the contractors to get the remediation done before we go down the legal road of pulling bonds, because that is a major thing.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mr. Berg. Thank you, Ms. Coulter. I'll look for any other questions. I see Councillor Blackmore.
I'm prepared to do business if you're ready for that.
Yep, I am ready for business.
I would move that committee recommend council approve policy 623, securities for construction on public lands and private lands, and 2, rescind policy 612, land development municipal improvements.
Awesome. Those motions are in order collectively as one. I'll look for any discussion or debate. Seeing nobody eager to raise their hands, I'll call the question. And that motion carries. Thank you very much, Ms. Coulter, for your report and for your thorough answers. I think we all learned a little something today. All right, moving right along. Got the outstanding items list, so I'm going to send it right back over to Chief Glavin to update us with what's going on there.
Thanks, Chair Thiessen. We have item 1230 that should be on the agenda for next committee.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. I see Councillor Burke.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. Just to do business, I'd like to move committee receive the August 20th outstanding items list as presented for information.
Thank you very much for that motion. It is in order. We will call that to question. And so it is. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today at the Operational Services Committee meeting. This meeting, however, is adjourned. Thank you.